June was definitely a good reading month for me. I read so many good books and I'm super excited to share all the books that I read this month with you guys. So without further ado, we're just going to jump right into this monthly book wrap up. The first two books that I read are actually from the same author, and it is the Bellinger Sisters series. So I read It Happened One Summer and Hook, Line, and Sinker. Again, both of these books are by Tessa Bailey. I'm going to keep the review on these two books short because I've actually talked about them on my channel before. It Happened One Summer is the first book in the series. This one basically follows Piper, who is, for a lack of a better words, a airhead. She's super rich, but she's always getting into trouble, and her stepfather basically has had enough of bailing her out. So he sent her to a small fishing town to basically grow up. There in the small town of Westport, Piper meets Brendan, and they could not be any more different. Their first interactions are actually quite hilarious. They're not good at all, but after spending some time together and after talking, they realize that even though they're polar opposites, they get along very well. It's a cute little rom-com. I had so much fun reading this book. It was actually pretty funny, and like the small town vibes are just 10 out of 10. I absolutely love Piper. You would think that I would find her character annoying, but I didn't. I absolutely loved her character, and I was rooting for both her and Brendan throughout the whole book. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend for you guys to read this book if you're in the mood for a feel-good book that is just simply going to make you smile. And this book is actually going to be turned into a movie, and I'm super excited. I cannot wait for that to come out because I know it's going to be such a cute little movie. And then the second book in the series, Hook, Line, and Sinker, actually follows Piper's little sister Hannah. Now this book, I enjoyed it, but I definitely enjoyed It Happened One Summer a lot more. This was still a feel-good story. I love the main character Fox. I just thought he was so cute. I loved him and Hannah together. I loved their love story. This one is more of a friends to lovers. The main characters Hannah and Fox are best friends, and then they realize that they actually have feelings for one another, and Fox is supposed to be like this player that no one takes seriously. Hannah's the complete opposite. She's like, if I'm going to be with you, it's going to be in a full-on committed relationship. They both have a lot of growing up to do in this book, and I just really enjoyed their story. And then the ending for Hook, Line, and Sinker was so adorable. I literally felt like the book was squeezing my heart because it comes full circle, and the two main characters from It Happened One Summer make an appearance in Hook, Line, and Sinker. Another cute little rom-com that is perfect for a summer day. You can literally read this in one sitting because you won't want to put it down. I gave Hook, Line, and Sinker 4 out of 5 stars. Both of these books are so cute, and I would definitely reread them in the future. Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren basically follows Macy and Elliot. These two are childhood best friends who develop feelings for one another. They actually start dating, and then something happens. Macy stops talking to Elliot completely. She disappears from his life. They stop talking to one another for 11 years, and then they run into each other. Elliot's confused why Macy basically dropped out of his life, and Macy is dealing with some issues of her own of why she dropped out of Elliot's life, and they kind of have to figure out if they can give their relationship a second chance. It's a cute book. I enjoyed the love story, but honestly, this book did fall flat for me. For the first half of the book, I was extremely bored with it. I was like, okay, where is this going to go? When is it going to pick up? And it did pick up in the second half of the book, but even then, I just felt like I really wasn't connecting with any of the characters. I just didn't vibe with this book as much as I wanted to. It took me all month to come up with a rating for this book, and I think I'm giving this book a 3 out of 5 stars. So sorry. I know that some of you love this book. I just did not feel the same way. And if you like the friends to lovers trope, then I think you'll really enjoy this book, but I'm just not a huge fan of that trope. It has to be done very well for me to actually enjoy a friends to lovers book, because the main characters tend to come across as whiny, and the main character in this book was hella annoying to me. I did not like her at all. And then I found out why the two main characters stopped talking to one another, and I was just like, really? I will say that I enjoyed that the book went from past to the present, but for some of the past chapters, I just felt like they were used as fillers. I didn't think that they really added anything to the main story. Well, not all the chapters, but just some of them really felt unnecessary to me, and I felt like this book could have been a lot shorter than it is. It's kind of thick for a romance book. The next book that I read this month was We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I'll quickly read the back because it's short and sweet, and I feel like the back doesn't really give anything away. It goes, if anyone asks you how it ends, just lie. We are Sinclairs. We live, at least in the summertime, on a private island off the coast of Massachusetts. Perhaps that's all you need to know, except that some of us are liars. Honestly, I thought I was going to hate this book, but I absolutely fell in love with it. I feel like so many of you are gonna be like, you didn't enjoy Love in Other Words, but you loved We Were Liars. What is wrong with you, Carmen? I don't know. I went into We Were Liars with zero expectations, and I ended up falling in love with this book immensely. The ending had me tearing up. Until this day, I don't know why I cried when I saw the ending coming from a mile away. Like literally a few chapters in, I had already guessed what the ending was going to be. Normally, I hate that in books. If I can predict an ending in a book, it turns me off completely. But for some reason, it didn't turn me off in this one. It just got so dark in my office. Like what the heck, the sun went down. I will say that the ending felt kind of abrupt for me. This is a pretty short book. If I remember correctly, it only goes up to 250 pages, but I felt like the ending definitely could have been a little bit longer and less abrupt. That's honestly my only complaint with this book. I feel like the author could have definitely done more with the ending and the storyline of this book. Either way, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend it. All right, so the next book that I read this month was Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter. I picked up this book not really hearing anything about it. I literally just picked it up at Barnes & Noble one day. I think I got it from Barnes & Noble. Can't remember. This is another romantic comedy. It basically follows a main character named Olivia. Olivia has super bad luck. Bad shit just happens to her all the time, and no one really takes her seriously because of that. As a result of one bad luck situation, she has to move in with her brother and her brother's best friend, Colin. Colin ends up texting Olivia one night. He doesn't know that he's texting Olivia. Olivia doesn't know that she's texting Colin. They start this texting relationship without knowing who the other person is. Olivia literally calls this person that she's texting Mr. Wrong Number, hence the title of this book. But Colin finds out pretty early on that the person that he's texting and that he's enjoying talking to is Olivia, his best friend's little sister, who he's never really looked twice at before. He's never been attracted to her before, and they're complete opposites, but he ends up catching feelings for her, and he has to decide whether he ghosts Olivia completely or if he tells her that he is Mr. Wrong Number so they can have a shot at a relationship. It's a very funny book. It goes by super fast. I read this in one sitting. I really enjoyed the writing, and I definitely look forward to reading Lynn Painter's other books. I think she has another book that is coming out soon called Better Than the Movies, and I'm super excited to read that book. I've heard so many great things about it. I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I will say that I wasn't a huge fan of Olivia's character. I felt like she was really immature at times, and she didn't really acknowledge when she messed up, but she did grow on me towards the end of the book. The ending felt kind of meh for me. It kind of felt a little lackluster. I was just like, okay, that's the ending. I definitely was expecting a little bit more. I wasn't blown away by this book, but it's still such a cute little fun read, and I still recommend for you guys to read it because it was quite funny at times. Now this next book I absolutely loved. I gave it a 5-star rating, and I've talked about this book before on my channel, so I'm not going to take up too much time explaining my love for this book, but just know that I absolutely adore this story, and it is The Kiss Quilton by Helen Huang. It's actually the first book in a series. I own the other 2 books, and I definitely plan to read them in the month of July. But this book follows Stella, who is autistic. She finds it hard to be intimate with anyone, and she's tired of feeling inadequate, and due to the pressure from her parents telling her that she needs to get married, that she needs to have kids, Stella decides to hire a male escort to teach her how to be comfortable being intimate with men. She ends up falling falling for Michael, the escort, and Michael ends up falling for her. Stella doesn't know if Michael is just pretending to be attracted to her and vice versa. So it's kind of like a little fake dating, friends to lovers situation. I just fell in love with Stella's character. I thought she was so sweet. She was so funny. I love the fact that Stella was autistic. I haven't read any books where the main character was autistic or had some sort of disability. And I also love that the author wrote this book from personal experience because she herself is on the spectrum. She had all these qualities in her that she never really understood until she was diagnosed later in life. If you want a cute romance novel, read this book. It was, again, a 5-star read for me. I definitely would reread this again. I still think about this book, and it's been weeks since I read it. I have 0 complaints regarding Stella, 0 complaints regarding Michael. They were just so cute together. You're definitely going to have a hard time putting down this book, I promise you. I have another Christina Lauren book here, and it is The Soulmate Equation. Now, Love in Other Words, I found meh, but I absolutely fell in love with this book. This one is more of a romantic comedy versus Love in Other Words is not a rom-com. Maybe that's why I didn't really like it as much, because I do prefer rom-coms. It follows 2 main characters, Jessica and River. River is a stuck-up, stubborn man who ends up creating this dating app that matches people based on their DNA compatibility. Jessica and him actually end up matching on this sad app. They happen to be a diamond match, which is like the best match that could possibly happen. Because they are a diamond match, the other people in the company sees this as a great opportunity for PR because the app is about to launch. So they think that if River and Jessica fall in love, that it would make their app skyrocket in the stock market and it would make people believe in the app a lot more. Because of this, the other co-founders of the app urge River and Jessica to date, to try to get to know each other and to basically tell the world that they are dating when in fact they're not really dating. So it is a little bit of fake dating. This starts out as Jessica getting paid to date River, not really expecting to fall for him. But after they spend some time together, sparks fly, things happen, they end up falling for one another. But then there's a huge reveal in the book that makes Jessica and River question their relationship, and they don't know if their relationship is actually real or if it's just part of an act. If you loved The Unhoneymooners, then you'll probably love this book as well. I thought it was such a cute read. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. I devoured this book in one sitting. I could not put it down. I absolutely love the main character, River. I love Jessica as well, and she has a daughter in this book, and the daughter is so adorable. So if you want a good, heartwarming book, then this is the book for you. It's going to have you laughing. It's going to make you tear up. Honestly, don't know why I didn't give it 5 stars. There must have been something I didn't like about it, but honestly, it's not even coming to my mind right now. So absolutely love this book. This month, I finally read a Emily Henry book for the first time. And the first book that I decided to read from Miss Emily Henry herself was Book Lovers. You guys, this was such a cute story. I absolutely loved it. Book Lovers basically follows Nora as the main character, who ends up going to a small town with her little sister Libby. Libby invites Nora on this little getaway to make her loosen up a little bit because Libby thinks that Nora is too career driven and she doesn't allow herself to date anyone. She doesn't allow herself to have fun. In this trip, Nora keeps running into Charlie, who they've met 2 years prior, and it wasn't a good meeting. Like it just did not go well, but they spend a lot more time together in this small town and sparks start to fly between them. If you're going into this book thinking it's going to be a straight romance type of book, I can see why you would be disappointed. Romance definitely isn't the focus of this book. It honestly focuses on the main character's Nora personal growth. The romance basically comes second in this book. But honestly, it didn't bother me. I actually enjoyed that the story focused on Nora because Nora was such a hoot of a character. Absolutely loved her. Libby and Charlie fell flat for me. Charlie was Nora's love interest in this book and I felt nothing for him. I thought he was blah. I just didn't vibe with him at all. And then Libby, Nora's little sister, I didn't really enjoy her character at all either. I thought she was boring. I didn't think Charlie or Libby added anything to the story, if I'm being honest, which is a first for me because I normally fall head over heels for male characters in romance books, but for this one, Charlie he wasn't it for me. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars and highly recommend. I bought Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation, and I'm so excited to read these books in July. The next book that I read this month was A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. And I am so sorry, you guys, but I did not film a reading vlog with this book. I read it when I was sick and I just did not feel like being on camera, but I absolutely loved this book. I'm not going to tell you guys what this book is about. Just know that it is the third book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, and if I tell you what this book is about, then I'm going to spoil the first 2 books, and I don't want to do that in case you haven't read those. Just know that I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I think this is my second favorite book in the series. A Court of Mist and Fury is definitely my favorite book of the series so far. I enjoyed that book immensely. It was a fantasy romance novel versus in this book, the 2 main characters' romance was already cemented, so it didn't really focus on that aspect of the relationship a lot. This book was definitely focused a lot more on war, which made it go by super fast. Like, it's a thick book, but I read this book super quick. I literally did not want to put it down. The reason I didn't give this book a 5 out of 5 star rating is because I feel like the side characters were heavily talked about in this book, and then they had an abrupt ending and their issues were never resolved. I don't know if Sarah J. Maas has other books planned in the series to address those side characters, but I felt like the side characters, especially Tamlin and Nesta and Lucian, I don't even know if that's how you pronounce his name, but that's what we're going with. I feel like they had a lot of unresolved issues. Their characters were kind of left hanging after, again, being heavily talked about throughout the whole book. That's the only thing that annoyed me, but other than that, absolutely loved the story. So this next book I recently read during my 24-hour reading challenge. If you haven't watched that video, I'll have it linked down below so you guys can check it out. It definitely is a fun little video, but I read Shatter Me during that 24-hour reading vlog, and I actually really enjoyed this book. I'll read the back of this book because it doesn't give too much away and is very short and sweet. It goes, "No one knows why Juliet's touch is fatal, but the reestablishment has plans for her. Plans to use her as a weapon. But Juliet has plans of her own. After a lifetime without freedom, she's finally discovering a strength to fight back for the very first time and to find a future with the one boy she thought she lost forever." I did give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I didn't think it was anything extraordinary, if I'm being honest, but it was very entertaining. Like, I did not want to put the book down. It sets the stage for the other books in the series, so there is definitely a lot of world building. I do have a huge TBR pile to get through, so I don't know when I'm going to be able to read the other books in the series, but I am excited and I will get to them eventually. My camera's about to die. I might not be able to finish this today. This may come as a shocker to some of you if you have been watching my reading content for a hot minute, but I only read one Colleen Hoover book this month, and it was Heart Bones. I also read this during my 24-hour reading challenge. This book basically follows the main character Bea, who is forced to spend a summer with her father that she hasn't really seen in years. They don't really have a relationship. They end up going to his new beach house where she meets Samson, who is a rich boy. He is the complete opposite of Bea. Bea basically comes from absolutely nothing. She's very poor. Samson appears to have it all, and they end up falling for one another and realizing that they do have a lot of things in common aside from coming from completely different worlds. There is a huge reveal in this book that changes everything for the 2 main characters, but honestly, I felt kind of disappointed in this book. I just found it to be meh. I wasn't blown away by the characters or by the story at all. This book definitely reminded me a lot of the book Confess, which is also by Colleen Hoover, and I don't know why, I just didn't really connect with any of the characters in this book. I enjoyed reading it. I think it's a cute little love story and I would still recommend it, but again, I just wasn't blown away, and I definitely love her other books like Ugly Love, It Ends With Us. I love those books so much that this book just doesn't compare to them at all. overall, at least for me, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. So I am so sorry, Colleen Hoover. I still love you and I will still continue reading all your other books, but this one just wasn't it for me. Not gonna lie, my favorite character in this book was the dog, Pepper Jack Cheese. Alright, the next book that I read, I actually read during that same 24-hour reading vlog, and it was The Silent Patient. This book, you guys, it threw me in for a loop. The Silent Patient basically follows psychotherapist Theo Faber, who is captivated by a woman's story. Her name is Alicia, and she actually murdered her husband and has not uttered a word since the murder. Throughout the book, you begin to understand Alicia's state of mind on the night of the murder. Alright, you guys, I had to switch cameras because my Canon G7X Mark II decided to die. I'm using my backup camera, which I don't really like. The lighting might be a little different, but bear with me. As I was saying before I was really cut off, throughout the book you begin to understand why Theo is so obsessed with helping Alicia and wanting to understand her state of mind on the night of the murder. The ending completely blew my mind away. I was not expecting the ending at all. I was reading it and I was in complete shock. Like my eyes were like, what is going on right now? I was a little bored in the first half of the book, I'm not going to lie. It took me a hot minute to get into the story, but by the second half of the book I was completely hooked. I did not want to put it down. Ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend if you want a good psychological thriller to throw you in for a loop, this is the book for you. This is probably one of my fave reads for 2022. The next book that I read this month is another book that I read during the 24-hour reading challenge, and it is Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. This is the second book in the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. This book basically follows the same main character from the first book, Pip. One of her friends' older brother ends up disappearing, so she has to become a detective again to try to find out where he's at, what happened to him, is he still alive, is he dead? Honestly, this was a lot more fast-paced than A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and I absolutely enjoyed it 10 times more. I didn't really enjoy A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is no secret. I've talked about that on my channel a lot. With this book, I did not see the ending coming at all. I was completely shocked by the big reveal. And I don't know if it's because I've become such a big softie, but I actually teared up at the ending of this book. I don't know why. If you are like me and you didn't find A Good Girl's Guide to Murder entertaining, or you just thought it was blah, definitely give the series a second chance and pick up this book, because I think the second book is so much better than the first one. And so many of you guys told me that. So many of you guys asked me to give this series a second chance. So thank you for pushing me to give this series a second chance, because I'm so happy I did. I enjoyed this book so much, and I highly recommend if you want another good little murder mystery to read this summer, this is the book for you. Let me know in the comments below what books you've read this month. Have you read any of these books? What are your thoughts and opinions? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I would love to know, so let's chat in the comments. But that's pretty much it for my monthly reading wrap up. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. It helps me out a lot. Don't forget to subscribe. I would love to have you a part of my little community here on YouTube, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.